Hey everyone, my name is Courtney Farrell, and I am doing this project on the Latino community and providing culturally competent care. The Latino community is one that is continually growing across the U.S., and with this increase in population comes an increase in members of the Latino community who are going to need those healthcare services across the lifespan. So it is imperative for healthcare workers to be knowledgeable about specific cultural values and to be able to deliver that culturally competent care to this Latino population. So what is the Latino community? The term Latino denotes all persons living in the United States whose origins can be traced to the Spanish-speaking regions of Latin America, including the Caribbean, Mexico, Central America, and South America. So the term Latino is really an umbrella term that encompasses a wide variety of many different cultures, many different backgrounds, many different subgroups, all kind of under this one umbrella term. Latinos are individuals from many countries with a variety of beliefs and cultural traditions, including health-related beliefs and practices. So I found this really great study. It was a focus group study along with a questionnaire, and it was targeted and specifically aimed at asking questions of people from these 4 Latino subgroups. It was from people from Colombia, Guatemala, Mexico, and Puerto Rico. And it explored various different cultural health-related beliefs, the similarities and the differences that happened across these 4 different culture subgroups. So some of the main questions that were asked was, what does health mean to you? What do you do to maintain your health? And talk with us about the things that kind of keep you from obtaining these healthcare services. So this chart right here shows the top 3 voiced health concerns by these study participants. As you can see, alcohol and drugs is actually the number 1 voiced concern by these participants. It was almost 80 to 100% of the participants voiced some kind of concern, in this issue. 70% of the participants listed diabetes as a concern, and with heart disease was not perceived as a major concern for the Mayan or the Mexican group. However, in the Colombian and the Puerto Rican group, there was 60% to 100% listed this as a condition of concern. So it's interesting to see the varieties here. Some of the other areas of concern that are not listed on this chart include HIV, domestic violence, teen pregnancy, depression or suicide, and actually cancer is pretty low on the totem pole. It's actually last listed on that, so it's kind of interesting how that worked with that. This chart is the top 5 voiced barriers to healthcare. That includes the high cost of healthcare, the fact that they don't have insurance, that there's too long of a wait to see a healthcare provider, and a non-Spanish speaking healthcare provider was also listed as a barrier, and we'll kind of touch on that more in just a few minutes. But approximately 90% of the Mayan group described their preference to take care of their own problems as a barrier to seek care. So self-treatment by the Mayan group is actually a very big barrier to them seeking healthcare on their own, which can actually put them at risk for multiple different disease processes. And methods of obtaining this health information across these subgroups. As a whole, the group, so 80% of them, prefer to get their health information through their churches, which was surprising to me. That's not a method of obtaining health information that I've ever heard of before. It also gives us a new idea of ways to improve that. Other methods include television and radio, and the Mayan culture specifically preferred word-of-mouth communication, while the Puerto Rican and Colombian culture preferred health and community fairs. So the views of health, all 4 groups talked about exercise and good eating habits as ways to maintain their health. And they also all viewed health as an important means to achieve a good life. There were some differences, however. The Puerto Ricans viewed health as a right. And it talks about in the study as how that could potentially be because the Puerto Ricans are born as U.S. citizens. And so this could be a reflection of the U.S. culture and the U.S. mindset that is kind of being reflected in that as well, that healthcare is viewed as a right to them. Well, the Mayan and Mexican and Colombian groups viewed health as something that a person needs to either work at or to work at avoiding the things that make you unhealthy. So it's not necessarily something that's going to be given to you. So culturally competent healthcare in the childbearing women. I've just kind of listed some different beliefs and customs here. The munico is a special article of clothing worn by some traditional Hispanic women that ensures a safe delivery of the baby and prevents morning sickness. Our textbook also talks about selective bicultural perspective, which is something that happens with Mexican American women, where they kind of take bits and pieces from their Mexican heritage as well as from their American heritage while they're pregnant, such as diet, exercise, and that close-knit family support from their Mexican heritage, but still maintaining the economic and personal freedoms from their American heritage that they get here in the U.S. One of the negative health beliefs, the evil eye, which I think we've all kind of heard of, the Hispanic taboo, but I didn't know it originated through this, that if you have a baby shower too early, it's actually an invitation for bad luck. Moving on to culturally competent care with children in the Latino community. Poverty is one of the biggest issues, not just for the Latino community, but from many other cultures across the board. In the United States, 1 in 6 children, so around 14 million, live in poverty, and a disproportionate number of these are from the African American and Latino backgrounds. And then I've also listed just some cultural specific beliefs that I had not heard of or did not know before. So in traditional Mexican American families, girls and women are not permitted to walk barefooted, wash their hair, or take showers or baths during their menses. And I think being aware of this as healthcare providers can kind of help us to provide a little education on just personal hygiene, decreasing risk for infection, things like that, to some of these Mexican American girls and women. And another fact, in some Middle Eastern and Mexican societies, fondling of the genitals of infants and young children is used to soothe them or to encourage sleep. However, such fondling of older children or for the sexual gratification of adults would fall outside of acceptable cultural behaviors. Now, I got both of these out of our textbook, and I was actually a little shocked whenever I read this at first. Again, trying to just kind of put all of those judgments at the door and kind of look at this with an open mind. However, I do think that this is something that healthcare providers definitely need to be aware of. So that we can kind of keep an eye out for any kind of inappropriate behavior, any kind of signs or symptoms of any kind of abuse that potentially could perpetuate from this. Definitely something to be mindful of, definitely something to keep your eye out for, especially in these different societies. So culturally competent healthcare for adults. As we kind of touched on before, majority of these prefer a Spanish-speaking healthcare provider. So providing that and staff members who speak Spanish are vital in caring for these people. Even the Puerto Ricans, who are all bilingual, preferred Spanish-speaking providers. And this is a quote from an actual study participant that said, not just because we don't know what's going on, but just because we feel better hearing that primary language. Also using those different methods of obtaining the healthcare information and using those to their advantage. So increasing advertisement for health clinics and services by using them at churches, as well as television, radio, and community health fairs, could actually help to increase awareness throughout the Latino communities. Because one of the quotes in the study that I found actually said that many Latinos in the communities are unaware of the availability of free clinics in the U.S. So culturally competent healthcare in the older adults in the Latino community. So older Hispanics are projected to become the largest racial or ethnic aged minority group in the U.S. And there are a lot of unexpected hardships that come to their subgroup, including lower income, educational levels, the fact that they have limited English language skills, and just the discrimination and lack of availability for health access. Also, with the change in the generations, the views and the roles of the family in the Latino culture are changing. The term familismo is that thought that we have with this culture that the older generation is taken care of by the younger generation, so that the family needs override the individual needs, so that supporting or caring for the older family members comes first. A study I found actually shows that families may may no longer be able to support elders in their communities and their homes, and that this elder generation is actually encouraging this shift in mind process, so that the younger generation are focusing more on their own family and children. Um, the older people who are participated in this study voiced that they did not want to be a burden to their younger family members, and that they knew that they were there when they really needed them if they were very ill, or were in an unfamiliar environment and needed them to be there, that they would be. But they didn't want to burden them with their minor health ailments. And this actually puts the older adult community into a much greater risk for delay of care, for stuff that's seemingly not serious but can actually be, such as stroke-like symptoms, that nobody's there to pick up on or recognize as this being a healthcare crisis or healthcare emergency. So that was a very interesting article to read, because it kind of goes against what is generally accepted as that. So culturally competent healthcare for Latino community as a whole. So as we talked about, increasing access, availability, and the advertising of the healthcare services that are available, increasing the number of Spanish-speaking providers to provide more comfort to this community. And also empowerment. Empowering minorities is one approach to achieving positive healthcare outcomes. And people who feel empowered and are collectively empowered as a community display more personal responsibility for their community. So helping individuals in their respective communities empower themselves, so that they can, and then in turn, go and empower the community. So the Latino community is an umbrella term for multiple different subgroups that have all kinds of different traditions, beliefs, customs. And it is essential for healthcare staff to educate themselves on the individual cultural subgroups to avoid any kind of generalization. It's also essential for us to keep an open mind with the Latino community and to avoid any kind of stereotyping and judgments. These are my lists of works cited, and thank you so much, and I hope you enjoyed it.